When did you start the practice, your practice?
November 2019 from True Zero.
So 2019, and it is May 2022. And did you kind of have an idea of what you wanted the practice to look like before you started, or was it just kind of get in and see where you can start helping people and find new clients? How did that work?
Yeah, I did have a very clear vision of what I wanted it to look like, what I was building toward, types of clients I wanted, types of services I'd be offering, what my focus would be. So I knew very distinctly what I wanted it to look like. Didn't know how I was going to get there when I started, but I knew what I wanted to have it get to at least.
Okay. So then it's been however long, not that long really, and you've got to almost full capacity, or it sounds like you're at that level, the ideal goal of where you want the practice to be. How did that happen so quickly compared
Sure.
to where it usually takes 3 years just to get your feet on the ground and kind of ramped up and sustainable? How'd you do it in less than that?
Yes. The short answer is Facebook group. But I had a target range of clients, 40 to 50 ongoing relationships where 40, I'd be plenty happy with. 50, I feel like is the hard limit on where I might start to stretch myself too thin because I am a true solo in every sense of the word. And 50 is just what I read and heard in other podcasts that's sort of kind of the terminal limit where you're going to start to get a little resource constrained unless you're doing sort of light touch, not heavy in the weeds type of work. But I knew I wanted to do detailed distribution planning, including income tax projections, because with retirees, when you sell yourself as a tax efficient, tax focused tax planner, how could you not get in the weeds with tax returns and
Hmm.
really ironing out distribution strategies for things like whether it's Roth conversions or how much to take out of your IRA versus your taxable and how's that going to impact your Medicare premiums, like all this stuff. You
Hmm.
really have to do tax returns to do that well, in my opinion. So I knew I'd be offering a lot more and doing a lot more than the typical advisor who's really just focused on investments and some light planning around the periphery. So I figured, I know some advisors do 60, 80 clients themselves, but knowing when I was going to offer what I was going to do, I didn't feel that was feasible. So 50 was my limit. Um,
Hmm.
I got to high 30s, I think 38, right at the 2 year mark. And I was content, income wise, I was making what I projected I'd be making. Client wise, I was right where I, sort of wanted to be within the range of, okay, I'm good. And the work, the day to day, the process, everything, not patting myself on the back too much, but lots of intention with every step of the way, including 3 years of planning this launch prior to actually doing it. I was very methodic about getting clients, what I was doing, how I was doing it. So at 2 years, I kind of was like, oh, I can stop here if I want. 38 clients, I'm close enough to my 40-ish soft goal. The income was plenty good. I figured let me still try to get to my 50, publicly announce that I'm done taking new clients just so I can turn off the flow of prospects, knowing there'd still be some folks that I had prospect calls with prior that may come around and I'll eventually sort of trickle up to my 50.
Hmm.
So it was February or March of this year that I formally announced. I think I had 40 clients at the time. I formally announced, that's it, no more initial calls. And I still had a few trickle in, so that plan's sort of working. I figured it may take another year or so to hit 50, which I'm fine with.
Okay.
So that's how long it took to get there. How I got there, Facebook group. Um,
Before we get into Facebook group, because that was the thing that worked. Did you think about anything else other than that on how to help people with education or content or attraction marketing? Kind of that's how I think of the Facebook group, is like you put a lot of helpful info out there and just naturally uh, people desire for more help. Was there anything else other than Facebook that you had tested or thought about?
so when I started day one, November 2019, I knew I needed a social presence because blogs and articles, told me I did. I was also trying to do local stuff. I didn't yet know if my clients were going to be local or virtual. That's the one thing I didn't spec out completely in my head. I figured wherever they come from, I don't particularly care as long as they fit who I'm looking to work with. I assumed to be a mix of virtual and local here in New Jersey. So I was doing boots on the ground stuff, some library seminars where I had a sign up sheet to capture some emails. Did a handful of those. I was taking centers of influence out to lunch, local accountants and estate planning attorneys. I I had social presence. I had a LinkedIn page, Facebook business page, Twitter page, and I was just sharing content in articles. Some stuff was things, articles I liked from other people. Some was stuff I wrote myself, like LinkedIn articles. I was putting a lot of work into help a reporter out
Hmm.
inquiries, and I got quoted, I guess, in a couple dozen articles within the first 6 months. None of that directly related to any prospect reaching out, to my knowledge, but
Everything. So what you just said, all of that from seminars, COIs, LinkedIn presence, social presence, and help a reporter out, nothing that you could directly tell.
Correct. And it wasn't a lot of time, to be honest. This was the first few months, and I know these things are generally longer plays. So who knows how they would have panned out. But, media, at least, no prospects came to me saying, hey, I saw your article on LinkedIn, or I saw this, U.S. News article you were in. One other thing I did, which was a huge flop, which I suspected it may have been, and my wife told me it was going to be. I'm a big woodworker, and there's this National Woodworking Expo that tours around the country at big, convention centers. And I've went every year for the past 15 years as an attendee, and it's all like tool manufacturers and local woodworking clubs and local hardwood suppliers. So I figured my business name is Tenon Financial, where Tenon is a woodworking term. And I figured, let me set up a table there. I knew it's a gamble, but hopefully, anyone who walks by and sees the word Tenon is going to know what it means. So hopefully, there's already this natural affinity. We're all woodworkers, and the average age of attendees at a woodworking show is well over 50. I'm like, this is gold potentially, knowing that I want to work with retirees. So I set up a table. I was real proud of it. Good signage. I had e-money demo on a computer. I can play around and do things. I talked to maybe 4 people. Gave out, I think, 2 business cards. It was complete bust. Now, to be fair, it was the weekend before the pandemic shut down the world. It was March 6th or 7th. So traffic was kind of light in there, but still, I mean, it was a flop, no matter how you look at it. So those were all the things I did. I was also on NAPFA, Find an Advisor, XY Planning Network, Find an Advisor, FPA, Find an Advisor, and CFP, Find an Advisor. And I got a few inbound inquiries from people from NAPFA, one from XY, none from FPA, none from CFP, but none of them panned out. So basically nothing was happening. From November when I started until pandemic when the world stopped, I had 3 family and 1 friend clients start, but they already sort of pre-agreed to start with me prior to launching. But outside of that, no real clients. And then pandemic happened. It's like, all right, now what? All of the marketing things I was trying to do stopped. No more in-person stuff. So I figured, let me focus more on social. And that's when the Facebook group started. I would have started the group earlier. The business pages didn't really get anywhere. Business page on Facebook is like a glorified contact us card. It's not this interactive community type thing. So I wanted to do a group for that reason, because it is more natural, more bilateral communication. But the archiving software I was using at the time was not able to archive Facebook groups, and I wanted to do this all in the up and up. So April 1st, they launched the beta test version of Facebook group archiving, and I was the first one to raise my hand and sign up. So once Facebook groups were able to be archived in April 2020, I started my group called Taxes and Retirement, and I just pumped all my time and energy into that, and the rest is history. So I guess we'll dig into that more. But
yeah, so why did you think Facebook groups? Was it just another test? I mean, you were doing all these tests to see what works, or did you have some conviction behind it because of somebody else or something you heard?
Yep. So I suspected it would be more helpful than the others, again, because it was more of like build a community, more soft, not as like salesy looking. But there was also someone I spoke with. He may want to keep his name anonymous, because when I first talked with him, he didn't want like notoriety from it, because he didn't want other advisors reaching out being like, hey, how can I make a group too? So I'll not name him, but he was a big part of informing me what to do and how to do it. So I had reached out in another advisor group within Facebook and just asked, hey, does anyone have a Facebook group? If so, do you mind chatting? I have some questions. And this guy responded to me, super nice, shared, offered up a call. We talked for about an hour. He's in the Bay Area, and at the time, he had already had a Facebook group for like 3 years, and it was 17,000, 18,000 people, just potential clients. He didn't let any advisors in or anyone else in the industry. So I'm not actually in the group, but he was super open and honest and said the group was gold for him. He did the traditional marketing and things like that, but once he started the group and he got traction, he had this captive audience where he's, not to sound greasy about it, but he's like the expert. Everyone looks to him as kind of like whatever he says is gold. And without traditional selling, he was just there handing out, answering questions to members in the group. And he said he started doing live videos every week. And that's really what poured rocket fuel on his growth when he started doing those videos. So that starting the group after talking to him was like, definitely, I'm doing it. The videos were in the back of my mind. I didn't start that originally, but I was like, let me get this group started and hopefully get some critical mass, then consider the video idea. So I started the group in April. I talked to him some point in March probably. started the group in April and went from there.
Hey, really quickly, if you enjoy these sorts of videos, especially the ones around interviewing other advisors to see what's worked in their practice and their life, let me know. Leave a comment below or just click like button so that I know that this is valuable and that you want to see more things like this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so that you see next week's video as well. Take care. Now back to the interview. Okay, so you started it and then you started just putting helpful text posts or links and things like that in?
Yeah.
No
So
video?
it was
Okay.
it was a lot. It was me just sharing comments like, FYI, whatever, Roth contribution limit $6,000. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what I said,
Yeah.
but some of it was stuff like that. Some was sharing other articles, whether it was Wall Street Journal or Forbes or whatever. Just thought this was relevant. A lot. Eventually, at first it was just me posting, trying to elicit responses and engagement. Eventually, members started asking questions within the group, and I would respond. And
Any idea how long that took to get engagement?
I mean, on day one, there was some. It wasn't a lot. I'm just making up a number. The early days, maybe there was like one post per day from someone who wasn't me.
Okay.
And then eventually, now it's dozens of posts a day. And I was also careful to, the way I set it up, anyone can join, including other advisors, but no sales, can't solicit, make that clear. I do kick people out once they try to be like, hey, DM me, I got this new product for you. But what I did was anytime someone posts a new post, I set it up so I have to consciously approve it. That gives me the ability to be the first responder. So I'd see it in the queue, I'd see their question, I'd draft up this detailed, super valuable, put a lot of time into an answer. And as soon as I hit approve on their post, I'd immediately copy paste in my reply because I don't want someone else beating me to the punch and stealing my thunder. So all posts need pre-approval. So that's what I did. Any question that came in, I put a lot of time and effort. Again, I didn't have any clients other than a few family and friends. There's nothing I can do physically outside my house because it was COVID. So I put all my energy into this, and it just slowly started growing. And there was a handful of new members every day, and then it was a few dozen a day, and now it's averaging 200 to 300 a week consistently of new joiners.
Was that, so it was just all organic? Facebook was promoting it, or how do you think people started finding out about it?
So initially, I'm not a social media expert, but from what I read, Facebook or any social platform wants to see some healthy amount of engagement initially. Otherwise, it just kind of dies on the vine. So what I did was the first few days I launched it, I did sort of promote it within other advisor groups I was in. Two different tax preparer groups and two different advisor groups. And I knew none of them were going to be clients, but and it wasn't just like greedy, like, hey, please come follow me. I tried to make it sound like it was something for them. So in the tax preparer groups, I said, tax preparers typically know tax returns well, but they don't know tax planning well. And then advisors know tax planning fairly well, hopefully, but don't know tax returns well. So like in the tax preparer group, I'm like, hey, if you all want to learn how to add more value to your tax prep business, specifically as it relates to longer term retirement planning, come join this group. And I sort of had the opposite message for those in the advisor groups I posted it in. So within the first week, I got about 400 something members.
Wow.
All from those other groups though. But I figured that was good. Hopefully Facebook liked that. It would help it in the algorithms and in search results. And I also was and still am a member of some other retirement groups, not professionals, just other folks talking about retirement. And I would plug it within there. Now, it wasn't just like shameless plugs. It was someone would ask a question within that group, something technical and taxy, like Roth conversions or whatever, or distribution strategies. And I would answer their question first within that group, and then say, oh, by the way, I started this group where we talk about things like this. If you're interested, here's the link. So I was doing plugs like that within other groups of people that I thought would be the right fit of members of my group. And that slowly got some traction as well. So a handful of people from other groups were joining. And then within a few months, organic growth just took off, and people were referring the group to their friends in other groups and other networks they're in. I'm assuming Facebook search results, I got higher up there when people search for retirement and or tax related stuff in Facebook. I like to think my group was, bubbled up fairly high there. And it just, hit the exponential growth curve a few months in and hasn't stopped, thankfully.
That's pretty wild. Now, do you remember how long it took from start a Facebook group to someone reaching out to you to say, hey, can we talk about this as kind of an intro call? And then how long it took for someone to actually become your first client from that?
Yep, vividly. So started the group April 1st, 2020. Started doing live videos middle of June 2020. Started doing them every Wednesday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern. and each one would be a specific topic. The first one I think was like, is Social Security taxable? And I dug into that and just explained that, and did live Q&A in the group, so people in the group can see the video and post questions live where I would answer live. So that I think really sparked the engagement and interest, and also not just because people are reading what I'm saying, but they can see me, hear me, see my mannerisms, get to feel like they know me. So that was middle of June. July 7th, maybe 6th or 7th, was the first time I had a intro call with a potential client who found me through the Facebook group, and she and her husband signed up at the end of that call. I was like, what? Okay. Sort of taken by surprise, like, wow, someone just hired some stranger off of Facebook, and they're from I won't say where, but opposite end of the country, at that. So clearly they knew they were signing up for a virtual relationship. But yeah, so that was the beginning of July, was the first real prospect call that actually translated into a real client. Prior to that, I did have other people just like DMing me in Facebook or sending me emails like, hey, quick question for you, to which I responded. I mean, I don't want to be a jerk and be like, yeah, it's $50 for this answer. So I would just give it away. I wouldn't give specific advice. I never talk about like specific investments by name. I don't tell people what their allocation should be. Usually it's technical questions about taxes or limits or rules, or general questions about distribution strategies. So I fielded a lot of those questions. But the first prospect and client was first week of July 2020.